Hi guys, Jackie with Famished Farm, and we are back this week with a multi-day project to finish items on our to-do list. It took a couple days, not because the tasks were difficult, but just because of things like running out of string in our trimmer, the batteries going dead, the heat even caused me to kind of space things out a little bit and take my time finishing the list. So let me show you what we did this week. First up, we're out at the end of our driveway. This is by the county road here. And we are gonna get the two knockout rose bushes weeded. There's Bermuda grass growing up through the middle of this. There's dead leaves, dead branches, and we're just gonna clean it up and then give them both a good dose of compost. I'm also going to take my nippers to a couple of the errant branches and just cut those off. It's not a great time to be working on pruning a rose bush, but this thing has been so neglected for so many years, and I've mentioned in previous videos that we've cut it back over the last couple of years really severely. The first year it just looked like it had never been maintained. That would be my guess. And again, the previous owner had a bad back, so at some point he did quit maintaining stuff. And this may have been one of the victims of that. But we pruned it pretty good that first winter. And then actually it would have been the second winter that we were there. And then this winter we pruned it even severely again, and it's starting to bounce back, I would say. It had beautiful blooms the entire year. We treat it with a fungicide, and I do spray this with 7 for the Japanese beetles, and we got it early enough this year that it actually produced beautifully, and it's still got some beautiful blooms on it. So I think it's looking pretty nice, and I would like to keep this in good shape at the end of the driveway. So I'm just going to speed us up through this process. We're going to finish on this bush this is on the south side of the driveway. The next one is on the north side. But let me just say, this is not a thornless. I don't know if they make knockouts in a thornless version. It is, it sticks me a couple good times here. I'm still nursing my wounds from this, and it's one of those things that I kind of forget because I don't work on roses every day, and I have to remind myself through pain to be careful of all of these thorns. We also have snakes and spiders in Northwest Alabama that I am ever mindful of, especially the spiders. Snakes don't scare me as much as spiders do. So I am being very mindful where I'm putting my hands, and I do kind of scout things out pretty good. On this one, I didn't really see anything, but on the second rose bush that I do, I definitely was respectful of a spider's territory as I was working. The other thing I'm kind of thinking about as I'm doing this, on both sides of our driveway we have a culvert and a ditch, and that culvert is pretty much an unadorned concrete block culvert, and the blocks looks like there might have been a cap on them that has probably long ago come off. And so we are gonna come up with a project to beautify that and get the top capped so it's not only safe for like Tilly dog, it just will look much better. And then finally, here we go with the compost on this south side rose bush. This is just finished compost off our pile, and I do fertilize this bush at least once a year. Sometimes it gets hit a couple times a year. And then we're going to jump over to the other side with our kneeling pad and repeat the whole process again on every side of the bush. On this side, one of the main branches of the bush has broken off and died, And I do kind of spend a couple of minutes prying that out of there. And here I am going to put on the rest of this compost. And we'll call this project done. Well, almost done. We do have a little bit of cleanup here, and these branches will go into the burn pile. Anything with thorns, I just burn. And then while I'm on this end of the driveway, I've brought my string trimmer, so I'm going to go ahead and trim off the dead weeds that I had sprayed Roundup on a couple of weeks ago. So we'll get that out of there. And I'm thankful to say that the multiple days that I'm doing the string trimming job, the wind is blowing the way I want it to blow, which is not in my face. So that works out quite nicely. So over on the left side, kind of ending at the mailbox, you can see those open concrete blocks that they just need to be dressed up. I've hated them since we moved in. They serve a purpose, of course, but I would like to make them prettier than they are now. And I've thought of different things, like I would love to use a bag of river rock and just mortar it on there. I'm not sure how long lasting that would be. So my most recent idea is just to build a frame around it and use pallet wood and make a surround for that block that reaches down to the bottom of the culvert, and then cap it on the top. I need to make a trip to the rock yard and see if I can find some flatter stones that will be, 8 inches to a foot wide that I can cap it off with. So that's my current idea. Once I get in and get measurements, I'll know more. So here I am going to work my way down the side of the driveway, and of course it's just about now that the string runs out on the trimmer. Bummer. We'll have to finish this another day. I guess it's a good thing the string ran out, because this was really doing a number on my wrist, so I was glad to take a break from that. So now we're over on our rubber tile sidewalk to the front door, and I'm going to edge this and try to give it a little breathing room on the west side of this sidewalk. You can see the gap in the tiles at the bottom of your screen, and that's what I'm trying to work on today. So I'm taking out about 1.5 inches, 2 inch roughly cut of the sod on the side that I'm working on, and that will allow me to move this over about 1 inch is what I need to move this end of the sidewalk over so it will connect with the other side. Now, this is the second time I've done this, and I don't mind doing this because this little rubber sidewalk is actually covering a really ugly, uneven asphalt sidewalk. It is not perfectly level. In fact, it's not anywhere close, but it does the job. And honestly, I am not gonna do it myself. I'm not gonna remove this asphalt, and I can't afford to have somebody come in and do it for me. So this was a relatively inexpensive project. These rubber tiles we got on clearance at Sam's last year, or might have been last summer, and they have weathered beautifully. There's little slots in them, so anything that blows on top of it, dirt, clay, whatever, kind of seeps down underneath, and I really like it. It's imperfectly perfect. Not a bad project in my book. Now, I don't have a lot of neighbors using this sidewalk to the front door, but what I do have is a little dog that walks this way every single night on our evening walk. So here I am now. We're gonna move back to the garden, and I need to fertilize, and I've got some mammoth snow peas that I'm gonna put in back here in the garden. So that's our garden work for the day. So I'm going to have to walk back over and grab one of the watering cans from the rain barrels by the side of the house. And we will get the water to mix up the fish emulsion that I've got on my cart. You'll notice our 2 new free rain barrels there in front of the metal shed. Those are not hooked up yet, and I still need to make stands for them to sit up so I can put the watering cans underneath them. And those are projects, they're on the list, so we'll get those done in the coming weeks here. First, we're going to work on planting out our snow peas. This is by the first planting bed where I've got some contender bush beans in. And I tried these mammoth snow peas in the early spring and had no luck whatsoever. So we're just going to try these again. I'm just going to plant out the remaining seeds that I've got, and I will attempt to keep this well watered. I actually soaked the seeds too, so just hoping that helps in the germination. I am planting them pretty close together, and I'm kind of staggering a forward row and a backward row. And then I've got a few seeds extra that I'm just going to put down at the base of the straw bale directly into the clay and just see if there's any difference in the germination. And to plant these in, I picked up a couple open bags for a very steep discounted price. They're organic garden soil, and I'm just going to top dress with that garden soil. And I come back later and I sprinkle some DE, and I'm not going to fertilize them until they start coming up. And then I'm going to water these in and cross your fingers that I keep them moist until they germinate. I'm also going to hit the raspberry bushes that aren't on the soaker hose system while I'm doing that watering. And then I need to do some harvesting. So this is those contender beans that I was talking about, and we'll harvest the couple of plants that we've got going here. I don't have a lot to actually fertilize back here. It's mainly the tomatoes and those beans, and I do throw some on the raspberry bushes. The blueberry bushes I'm not fertilizing. They're sitting in some pine bark, so I think they're probably perfectly happy on their own. We're going to use the stick to stir up the fish emulsion that's in this watering can, and then we'll start hitting these tomatoes. I mentioned in another video that I'm having massive trouble with a new pest to me. It's called a leaf-footed bug, and it has destroyed my tomatilla harvest. I think I harvested about 2 pounds of tomatillos off those plants, and now they're just producing empty husk. So if anybody has ideas on leaf-footed bugs, let me know how to combat them. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and harvest my cherry tomatoes and the Roma tomatoes. Basically, it's still super hot here, so I am harvesting everything when it's first blushing ripe. I'm not waiting for them to ripen fully, because in the heat, the bottom part of the fruit is ripening and then the top remains yellow. So I'm just picking them as soon as they get a blush, and then I'm ripening them inside the house on a table. That's pretty much been doing that all summer with the heat. I've harvested very few bright red cherries, or bright red Romas for that matter, off the plants. They still are delicious though, I must say. So we cut back all of our sunflowers the other day, and I actually had just left the sunflowers laying on the ground, and I'm so happy I did, because we were visited by several Oreos that came and ate all the seeds out of the downed sunflowers. Now I'm planting a second run of sunflowers here, and both planters, these are just maybe a yard by a foot deep, and I've only got one type of sunflower seed left, and I've got about 25 seeds, so I'm putting about a dozen seeds in each of these 2 planters. And Rod loves sunflowers, and he is helping keep these watered because they are not on sprinklers. So this soil has had only one crop in it beside Bermuda grass, and it is working pretty nicely with the dozen or so sunflowers that were in there previously. If we keep this up and keep planting, actually I may put I've got some other annuals that I think we'll have time to mature. I might go ahead and throw those in there too, and just see if we can keep working the soil and keep it from being so compacted. There was a really pretty good sized chunk that was extremely compacted, but it's, we're working in Alabama clay here, so we're doing what we can to keep these whatever planting beds we start to just make them so they're a little easier to work year after year. That concludes the first day of our projects, and now we are moving on to the second day. This is, to the bottom of the screen, the sweet gum pod planter that we did the other day. We mulched with the sweet gum pods, and now I have these junipers growing up alongside the driveway, and they look pretty nice. I have no problems with the plant at all. My problem is all of the leaves and debris that blows down the driveway gets caught in the junipers, and I just hate that. So part of the thing here is I'm just cutting them back so they're a little closer to being at the edge of the asphalt. And while I'm doing this, I'm coming up with a plan to actually lift them up and put a brick border between the asphalt and the planting bed. So if any little bits and pieces, leaves, whatever, want to blow along the bricks, they can do that and hopefully not just get trapped by the branches of this juniper. So I'm trying to use that big shear that you see that is nice and sharp, and it gives a nice cut. But what I'm finding is at this angle, I have to put my hand underneath it, and so it's up against the asphalt, and it's painful. So arthritic hands do not like this kind of pressure on them, so I kind of changed my strategy, and it will take a little bit longer, but I'm just going to use my little nippers and grab a handful or a branch and then start cutting. So I go to the opposite end of where I'm cutting here, and I just start the line from where I can see where I want it to end. Oh, but first here's Rod coming out to investigate. And he's actually checking with me about our project at the road. He's going to go out and string trim that for me and by the culvert, so I can get some measurements for the wood that I'm going to be using. But what I was saying is I went to the opposite end of the planter here and started cutting so I could see the angle that I needed to cut. This looks like it's curved here, but it's not as curved as it looks. It's mainly the angle of the camera that's showing that. But once I got that where I could see the end of it, I then could cut the whole sweep of this planter and these junipers. And it's just a matter of grab a branch, cut, and then some of the newer growth I can get, 3 or 4 in a bundle and then cut those. But this works out pretty nice. It always looks, I think, I like it looking manicured rather than looking wild. And it looks great when it's all done. So I'm unsure what I'm going to do with all these clippings. I'm not sure if this is going to go into the garbage or go into compost. So I'm just going to actually sweep these into a big pile. I've got the same thing to do at the other end of the planter. So I'm just going to let these sit overnight and kind of mull it over and figure out if I want those to go into compost. Now, this is the second end of the same planter. You can see we're a little closer to the carport here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just using my little hand nippers, and I'm going to go down to the other end of the bed to make sure that I'm following the right line, and then I'll just complete the cuts. You can see I have to go back over here because I'm going to go a little bit, I think I'm going about 6 inches shorter than I had originally started. Now that I can see the line that I need to work on, I can take out more of the growth. And this works pretty good. And of course, once you know what you're doing, it goes much quicker. So stay tuned here. We're going to flip through this pretty quick. As I'm going, I'm also cutting out any dead branches. These are impacted by the cold weather. So every spring we have lots of dead pieces in this planter. But so far, by removing those dead pieces, it seems to spring back nice each year. So it's, I don't mind this juniper. I had these in Orlando and I really hated them. But in this particular planter, I really like how it looks alongside the asphalt, and it's growing pretty good. So anything that's growing in clay in my book can't be all bad. Oh. And then our cleanup is going to be the same thing. We're going to use our push broom, push this into a pile, and I try to get as much of the composted needle debris as I can into the same pile, and then we'll figure out what to do with this overnight. So here is day 3 of our project list, and it is nice and cool. I think it's 71. I didn't get out here until about 9 a.m., but it's a beautiful morning, and I've decided that I am going to compost these 2 piles of juniper branches. Now, I've thought about this, and the reason why, this is mostly green, but I have a bunch of leaves that are down, mainly due to heat stress in the front yard, and Rod is going to be running our leaf rake through the front yard, and with all the leaves that are going to come up, I think this is going to be a good complement to this green juniper branch compost. We'll mulch the leaves and then put that on top of these branches, and hopefully I've got enough leaves that I can do it twice, because it looks like I'm going to have 2 levels of this green juniper branch to cover up. Now, I didn't show yesterday, I did some more string trimming yesterday along the driveway, and I kind of, again, my wrist just is killing me when I'm doing that, but I gave up on that because I encountered all those dead leaves I was talking about, and they really need to be raked up before I do any more string trimming. So that was part of the reason, and I just didn't feel like pulling the camera out to show you guys that, but that was the second part of what I did yesterday. So here's our final pile going into the wheelbarrow, and then I'm just going to kind of dump this beside the compost pile so I can easily, once I get the once I get the leaves mulched, I can just throw this on top of what's already in the compost pile. So here I am going to start then on the other end of the driveway with finishing off this dead weeds alongside the asphalt. And this particular day the wind wasn't as cooperative as the day before, but it's still mostly going the way I want it to. So this is just a lot of busy work, guys, and I've said Rod usually does this job when he's mowing, but I am a much more aggressive trimmer than he is, and I really like more of the, for one thing, it's an old asphalt driveway. If you let weeds grow onto it, it's just more likely to lead to bigger cracks and bigger problems than we've already got. So I like to very aggressively keep the lawn, this Bermuda grass, from encroaching onto the driveway. Just 2 different styles. I think Rod would prefer everything just to grow wild, and it's not so much that he doesn't want to do the work of it, it's just he does not like killing living things. And for me, I have no problem where it's gonna kill my driveway instead. I have no problem with cutting back and killing back Bermuda grass to keep it off that driveway. And our last project on the list is to take care of these Shasta daisies that I kind of incubated in these planters I've got on my front porch. Now you can see the first one I've already done. I've removed and divided up all of these perennial Shasta daisies. And these are grown from seed. They are not going to flower this year. They will possibly flower next year. And so I would like to get those into place in the landscaping and see how they do. I'm going to kind of interplant these along the front of the sidewalk here. You can see in the background there where Tilly Dog is running down it right now. I'm going to interplant them between the monkey grass and just see how they overwinter. I've heard not such great things with Shasta daisies, and I'm not sure if it's a longevity thing or what, but we're just going to try it. Now, my plan is, what I really want is a small perennial white flower, and these kind of fit the bill, hopefully. If they do flower, that's the thing. I would like a white flower on them to line the sidewalk and to line the front of the planter. So if you guys have any suggestions for perennials that preferably that will grow from seed, that would do a good job in that type of application, let me know. So you can see my husband is gonna tie Tilly Dog up there so she'll stay. He's getting ready to go into town. So it's me and Tilly doing the planting here. And you can see I'm pulling back the weed fabric and then placing some holes. And notice I'm using my little fork deal instead of a trowel. This is really rocky clay soil in this area. And I have just found a trowel and a shovel is more trouble than it's worth. So I seem to be able to get around the rocks and make more headway using this little fork deal instead of a trowel. So it's what's working for planting in this soil for me. You guys may have totally different soil, and a little hand trowel would probably be the correct tool for the job. Just in my case, it does not work great. Thus using this unusual tool for this job. That was about 14 Shasta daisies that we put in, kind of interplanted with the liriope in the back, that monkey grass. I think it looks nice. Hopefully we'll get some flowers out of this. Guys, that was it for this week. This is probably the biggest reason that the projects don't all get done at one time. Sometimes little girls demand attention, and they should get it. Thanks for being here.